true player shit. We gon' make it live with Big Dom. We ain't holding no punches. True players, we live, homie, no frontin'. Always talk about something. So taking over, you know that the wait is over. That in your face commentary is fire in the show up. We talk about sports, finance, and relationships. True players, we always playing the greatest hits. 1804, that mean Hades lit. Mothers still the true players like baby kicks. Our live podcast is hard as hard hats. Real life shit, that true players will talk that. So tune in and watch.
What's good, everybody? It's man Big Dog coming out at you, another True Players podcast episode. You know, I got my my normal guest host, my bro Joey G, my bro Ricky Brown. Got my sis on here, Carmine, joining us on the podcast as well. She's gonna be a feature host in a few episodes to come as well. You know, so everybody, we start with Joey G. Introduce yourself.
What's going on? This is your man Joey G out here in Atlanta, Georgia. Love to be out here on this podcast once again, talking about the politics and everything that's making the world run.
All right, Ricky Brown.
It's the deal. It's Ricky Brown, coming straight out of Baltimore, Maryland, trying to stay sucker-free, COVID-free.
Carmine.
Hi, this is Carmine, just trying to be a voice for the ladies, you know, on this male podcast, I guess you can say.
Listen, I wasn't trying to...
True players. It don't matter if you're male or female. Come on.
True players has no sexual orientation here.
No.
But I'm glad we finally have a female voice on the show to bring some balance to the show. I felt a lot of females who listen to my podcast felt it was too much male dominated podcasts, and that some felt I was picking on them. I don't pick on my females. I love my females, especially my black sisters. So it's not about bringing hating on you guys. Anything like that. It's bringing some type of truth to the table from a different aspect that other people see. And like I said, I'm glad to have a female on the show finally. On the basis of this topic, the topic of today's episode is the shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. The uproar that caused, how it affected a lot of people in the country. Because we just saw George Floyd get killed by a police officer with a knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds exactly. That brought further attention to police brutality that goes on within this country. And what's going on is after that incident with George Floyd, we see Rayshard Brooks getting gunned down in Atlanta. Now we see the situation with Jacob Blake. He gets shot in the back with his 3 kids in the backseat of a car. And now what happened is that they claim the police was called to the situation because she was breaking up a fight between 2 women. Okay, that's what happened. That's what the police were there. Mm-hmm. And you notice after he gets shot in the back, he's paralyzed from the waist down. Now they're criminalizing the victim as they always do, saying that he had a warrant on arrest for a sexual assault that happened previously. Right. My thing is when this is going to stop.
Don't get the knife under the seat because they came up with that shit after they searched his car.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a knife under the seat?
There was a knife under the seat.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, whether it's there or not, he didn't even get a chance to reach under the seat before them bullets entered his body.
Absolutely. And I don't understand why excessive force needed to be, why did they have to use excessive force? Because there's been plenty of situations where you do have a civilian who some of these police officers will try to, I guess, to calm the situation, to find out what's really going on. And some of them will walk away. They will start to walk away. But there could have been so many different approaches to stopping him from walking away, from him trying to get in his car, besides a gunshot wound to his back, where they could have used a taser. They could have tackled him down on the ground and put handcuffs on him. Why was it okay for that officer to feel like the situation merited for him to shoot this man in the back?
Right.
I don't understand.
Like I spoke about in a previous podcast. Remember we had the conversation about the rules of engagement, the episode about that.
I'm starting to want to throw that out the window right now. To be honest,
I
with
was, I was almost scared
we
to mention.
need to scrap that.
We had that
At
big
this current
conversation.
at this current point, we were trying to be very diplomatic in the way we were speaking about the situation. But when diplomacy is not being used and common sense is not prevalent in these situations, then we got to write a new textbook.
For real.
Right. That's right.
Basically, and it's a situation. The one thing that bothered me the most is these guys had no regard that children was in the back seat.
They don't care.
Right. They don't.
If you put in your mind that the thing that we're not looking at, we're pieces of property. We're property.
Mm-hmm.
If we have that mentality, property doesn't have rights. Property is bought and sold. It's taken. It's used. It's, you know what I'm saying? If you have that mentality, then it makes sense. Other than that, I there's nothing that I can sit there and rationalize the situation with. Nothing.
By the way, has a police officer even been brought up on charges yet in regards to that yet?
To my knowledge, I haven't heard any charges. I'm not even sure if he was placed on leave like they usually do. The tactic that they usually use when something goes wrong and they're trying to make it seem like it was the victim's fault. Because in this case, Jacob Blake is the victim.
He is.
He is a victim to abuse and police brutality, excessive force.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
of course, to mask the real issue, they're going to bring up his warrants. They're going to bring up charges of abuse that he has on his record. So that way you will stop looking at him as if he is human and look at him as a criminal. But that's not the case. At the end of the day, he is still human, regardless to his record and what it shows. That should not have happened. That's the whole point. It doesn't make it right. He should not have been shot in his back as he was walking away from whatever conflict.
Absolutely. Like Carmen said, they had plenty of time to tackle him and throw him to the ground.
They had
Plenty of time.
They had ample opportunity to pull the taser. You had at your waist too. If you felt that threatened, you escalated it straight to your side piece.
Yeah.
But check it out though. I don't know if you guys remember seeing this video on either on Facebook or Instagram where it was a white guy. Did the same exact thing. He went into his. Listen.
I saw that video.
He went into his car. I forgot those. The cop tased him. The cop looked like a shook little bitch. Tased him, and the dudes kept on coming at him. Right.
Right.
So whatever he did, he took off the taser off of him. He goes back into his car. His car couldn't start. So the cop comes back after him again with the same taser, knowing that you only had one shot with the taser. Then he goes and he starts swings at the cop again, and then this guy goes into the cop's car and drives off in the cop's car.
Yes, and not once did that officer take out his gun. He didn't even put his hand on his gun.
No.
And then the sad reality of it is that they get treated different.
Right.
They get treated different. I mean, look at the dude who shot up that church down in Atlanta. He stopped by Burger King on the way to the jail and got this dude something to eat.
He got a supersized though. He got a supersized meal.
Yeah.
For real. And hold on, let's be a little more current and talk about this Blake situation, because while they were protesting, some white kid ran through the crowd with an AR-15, shot 3 people.
Yeah.
Walked right past the cops.
Yeah.
They giving this dude water. They taking pictures with him. He posting the shit on Instagram. Like, how is this man walking around with a firearm?
And
how is this man walking around with a firearm in a crowd
Right.
and doesn't get pulled up and at least questioned.
They probably thought it was.
Young
They probably
boy.
thought.
He was
They
17 years old. He's
You know
a
what it
young
was?
boy.
They probably thought that was a paintball gun.
No, they
We would have
didn't.
got.
And
Bruh.
you,
I'm just saying. I'm just
We
saying. They
would have
probably
got
thought
shot
that
for a
was.
paintball. We
and
would
I
have got shot
guarantee
for a
you,
paintball
I
gun, bro.
guarantee you,
Bruh.
if it was
That's the
the other way
excuse.
around, if
Bruh.
it was
Bruh,
the
I
other
can
way
do
around, I guarantee you, if it was the other way around and it was a black 17-year-old, even if they did have a paint gun, even if it wasn't a real gun, he would
Thank
have
you.
been gunned down.
Thank you.
Right.
Tamir Rice.
Toy gun. It
So-
didn't
Tamir
make
Rice.
sense.
Tamir Rice.
Yep.
But check it out though. I'm gonna play devil's advocate though. I seen the video.
Uh,
The people who got shot, bunch of fucking idiots. Why are you running after a guy with a gun? Can somebody
rifle.
explain that to me?
rifle.
You see, that's the problem with white people. They run to trouble while black people run away from trouble.
A rifle. He had a rifle with a full clip.
Listen, the guy shot the girl in her chest, right? You think the bitch will stop running after him? Stop running after him. She kept running after him to get more shots. Yo, are you know,
I'm gonna say that she was probably in shock, and at
Yeah.
that point, the shock and anger of being shot,
Mhm.
now you want to get your hands on the person.
Right. You're not thinking
What-
logically.
No,
Yeah.
I feel that was probably a something going through their mind at the time, and it's sad. that
adrenaline rush. That's what you call it, adrenaline rush.
not even, not even.
I don't mean to be,
You know, I can give you that one. I can give you that one. But still, my issue is with the whole aftermath of how it was handled. You know,
Mhm.
after the fact. Because
Right.
again, if it would have been a black kid with a paintball gun, matter of fact, fuck a paintball gun. If that would have been a black kid with a super soaker,
Mhm.
he got
you
shot.
know,
He got shot.
he probably be full of more holes than Mr. Blake right now.
That's right.
He would have got shot. Everything.
Yep.
Look at that example. Tamir Rice. Didn't he have a toy gun?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
On the playground.
On the playground. Let's not even talk about Breonna Taylor either. Dudes came into that house and shot her. A first responder. So that means when you see a black person who's a first responder, that don't matter to them either.
Well, as
Well,
long
see-
as you're wearing the black skin, that's the whole point. These white supremacists, they don't care if you're a nurse, a doctor, what you're providing, you know, what you're providing to your community. They just don't want to see the black skin doing anything good.
Right.
They
Correct
perceive
me
us
if I'm
as
wrong.
whatever they perceive us in their mindset, and that's what we are. We're just whatever it is that they call us, you know, the N-word that they call us, and you know, they don't see us as more than that. So we cannot expect for people who have little education to you know, to differentiate, oh, this black person is a medic versus this black person who just, you know, whatever, you know, like they don't care.
They really don't. They really don't.
How many?
'Cause we had a
How many of the people that actually were killed do they have had some type of uniform on, like a work attire uniform? Like literally, let's say Target or Walmart or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I'm asking that question is those are the things that they respect. A brand. They respect a brand.
You think so? I don't
Some-
I don't
think
know if I
so.
agree with that.
Sometimes
so.
yes, sometimes no. I mean, just going on my personal experience, particularly when I was working at Best Buy. You know, I had on the yellow shirt, which means I'm loss prevention. You know, I've seen fellow loss prevention, loss prevention coworkers get pulled up and roughed up by those same police that want to sit you down on the curb and lift your shirt up over your head and reach down all in your pants and shit.
Right.
You know, and I'm not saying that those situations were as bad as what happened to Mr. Blake or to Mr. Rice or to anybody else that actually lost their life, but it's just another example of the systemic issue that we're all dealing with that
Right.
leads to those situations that happen to Mr. Rice and Mr. Blake. You know,
Where we're not being looked at as human beings, we're being looked at as just the color of our skin. And that's what it is. And because of the color of our skin, to them we are deemed to be a threat on some kind of level, even though we're not. But in their mindset, we are some kind of threat.
we're still peg-holed into that stereotype of, you know, the angry black man, the sassy black woman, you know,
Right.
that crazy Latino, you know, that and don't be a black man with an accent, because whether you African, whether you Haitian, whether you Jamaican, the first thing they think is that you come from a third world country and you lived like an animal, and so you're gonna act like an animal, so you're gonna be an animal, and they're gonna treat you like a fucking animal.
Right.
You know.
Let me. I'm gonna interject. I'm just go a little bit off the subject, but let me tell you something about them third world countries. They were more prepared for COVID than we were.
No bullshit. No bullshit. Right now, there's Cuban doctors in Jamaica. Right now, there's Cuban doctors in Jamaica that have been there since February. Because since February, they've been inoculating and testing vaccines and like making moves and trying to do shit.
Real vaccines, not that microchip that Bill Gates try to push.
Nah,
Okay.
not that Microsoft shit. That's another podcast.
That's another pod. That sure is another podcast. We already spoke at length about that other podcast before. But let me ask you guys a question.
Go for it.
Do you believe that this problem can be solved just by defunding the police departments?
No.
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 It has to. For my opinion, it should go further. It should go further. It should go to the police, past the police departments. You got to change you got to get rid of the old heads and put in new bloods.
I honestly, I think defunding the police is a two-edged sword that could go real pear-shaped real quick. You know, it could be a part of a solution, or it could be the start of a whole new bigger problem.
Right.
You know, because we've already talked at length in both off the record and on podcasts about the fact that all cops aren't bad cops. There are plenty of good cops out there, you know. And we've also made the comment that if you really want to hurt somebody, you hit them in their pockets. You fuck with their money.
Right.
You know, if you take these, you know, if you take that 9-to-5 hardworking, grew up in the hood, wants to make a difference in his own neighborhood cop, and you take him from making $80,000 a year and you bust him down to $30,000 a year, and now he's making the same amount of money that a nigga make at McDonald's. He just happened to have a gun in a different uniform. Ain't no telling what he about to do with that gun, because right now you just put him in a position where he's now he's one of us in the hood. Now he's got to figure out, how am I going to feed my 3 kids? What do I have to do to make sure that my lights stay on? What do I have to do to make sure that there's heat in the house when the winter comes? That the house stays cool in the summertime.
True.
And
he just happens to have a gun. You know, if the wrong wheels start churning, you know, we might end up with more issues than solutions from that. So I think if we're going to defund the police, well, first of all, what are we going to do with those funds that were going to the police? Second of all, how are you going to defund the police, and what other steps are going to be implemented? You know, because and that's something that I never hear about when they try to throw that narrative at us about defunding the police departments. It almost sounds good, but it sounds like they're just throwing us a bone.
Right.
I agree. I agree with a lot of what you just said. Because defunding the police, I'm not sure how that's going to be good or bad for the communities that they're supposed to be serving and protecting. And in addition to that, if you remember back in the days when the police when they were only making about 20 to 30,000 a year, there
Right.
was a lot of corruption.
Right.
Right.
So defunding them back to this, 30,000 salary, then we're gonna, just like you said, it's gonna start some, it's gonna snowball some other negative things in the community, which will have to do with corruption, because they're gonna have to find some other way to feed their family.
Right.
And the fact that you defund the police, who's to say they're gonna now come to the bad neighborhoods and try to calm a situation? They'll probably just walk away. But nah, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna do with
How
that.
many of them are gonna sit there and fold their arms and be like, "You see this shit?"
Right.
Yo,
Why would they put their what would they put their lives on the line for less money?
exactly.
Right. Yep.
Exactly.
But yeah, check it out though. Remember back in the day when we were young kids, everyone talked about Terrace Avenue in Hempstead. How no cops would
Mhm.
ever go to Terrace Avenue. That can happen in
Yeah.
every black community, minority community that goes on right
Mhm.
now.
Even white communities too, they have those places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do. They do.
You sure do.
White people have those places too.
Yeah.
Cops don't even bother going down there.
Down here in Baltimore, we got our own Brooklyn in South Baltimore, and Avenue. I mean, this is on Avenue, and that's where the low number streets are. Avenue and all that shit. A lot of those streets, the cops don't even turn down. In fact, if I remember correctly, Avenue is so fucked up that you better have your suspension right. Like you got to go down that bitch in a Land Rover in order to just get down the street.
Wow.
Wow.
And they trap on that. Well, you know what?
You must think first.
I had to edit that out because I ain't trying to be dry snitching. But but I mean, in the hood, you smart enough to know that when the cops don't bother your street or deal with your street, well, shit, might as well set up shop here.
Right.
Because just like that cop that got busted down from $80,000 to $20,000 a year, Tyrone and Ray Ray got 3 baby mothers and 5 kids to feed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Who's gonna be the pusher? You know.
Yeah.
But the one thing that came out of it is how the players was the Major League Baseball, NBA players, NHL, NFL all responded to the situation in unison, unified. There was no there was a sense of unity.
There was no solo Kaepernick action.
No. I liked how the NBA players in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Bucks, came out for their playoff game and walked out after the anthem was done. They walked away, and the game was boycotted. So the NBA had to shut down their playoffs for a few days and to come up with a meeting to ask players whether or not they're going to continue with their season or not. I like that. The New York Mets player Dominic Smith, he had a very passionate statement in regards to that. My man was tearing at the situation. It's like when does it stop for us?
Right.
When do we stop being target practice?
Mm-hmm.
But he did mention some. He did mention some though. I did not like, because he said, why do people make money and leave the hood? And go ahead, Carmi.
No. Go ahead. Finish your statement.
Yeah, he said, why do people with money leave the hood? And only thing that goes to my mind is that Nipsey Hussle, Jay-Z. You go back to the hood, people expecting handouts. Nipsey never left the hood. He stayed in the hood.
Right.
People expected handouts. Give me money. They hate, or you got the hate coming from your own community. Instead of congratulating you, and ask the question about how they can make it as well as you have, there's hate involved. They want to rob you. They want to jack you. Why is that?
If they have
Well, see
hate,
that go ahead, Joe. My bad.
I was just gonna say, if they had a hate for self, like you're talking about, to hate yourself. Your brother is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the fact that you're doing better than me.
True.
You know what I'm saying? What movie was that? I think it was Don't Be a Menace.
Yep, it was Don't Be a Menace.
Don't Be a Menace. I hate your black skin. I hate your black lips. I hate your black.
I hate my
going
gums.
in. Right.
I hate black keys on the piano. I
Right.
hate my gums.
He was
'cause I'm
going.
black.
He was going in, but the bigger picture in that comedy sketch was that
It was satire.
right.
You're supposed to
Satire
look
for
at
what-
yourself when you see that shit.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, that's why Aaron Magruder, after he did the second season of the Boondocks, he's like, I'm not doing no more. There was a 3-year break between season 2 and season 3 of the Boondocks because they basically had to throw money at the dude in order for him to come back because his mentality was, y'all think this is all jokes.
Right.
Right.
It's not all jokes. I'm trying to give y'all a serious message. All y'all hear is, don't trust them niggas over there. You think Uncle Ruckus is the funniest thing ever, but how many Uncle Ruckuses do you have on your block, in your house, or in your family? You know what I mean?
In
Right.
your community.
And if you don't see them, you might just be that Uncle Ruckus.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sad to say.
Basically,
No relation.
the thing is too, the reason why things don't change as quickly as it should be because the powers that be take advantage of our division.
Most definitely. And then you know what? To get back to your question about, or rather the question that you had said that you didn't like, with the gentleman stating, why do people as soon as they get money leave the hood? It reminds me of something that Amir Abdul-Jabbar has said. The police become necessary in a society where there is a split between those that have and those that have not.
Yes.
And the whole idea of obtaining something, the American dream, is a selfish one. In order for you to elevate and get up out of your situation, you have to do it alone, and you have to get up out of your situation. You're not worried about your block, your community, your family.
Right.
We're not taught that. Our school system, our public school system is basically a 12-step program to teach a reflex response to authority, as opposed to teaching us, how to live better, how to eat better, how to get along with one another, how to empower one another. We look at those ideals as being socialistic, and socialism is supposed to be the quote unquote enemy.
Right.
Socialism is supposed to be a bad thing. And truth be told, there is no perfect government, which is part of the reason why we have a hybrid government here. But you can't get mad at that Jewish family or that Puerto Rican family or that family that came from whatever country you can name and moved here into a studio apartment with 20 people, and one by one they all left that studio apartment and bought houses.
Right.
They came from a socialist society. They knew what they had to do. They pooled their money together and they put together their resources. And that brother and sister might not get along, but at the same time, when it was time to sign the deed on the house, that brother showed up to the sister's closing. You know what I mean? Like they were able to get past their differences. Because they considered themselves part of the same unit. We don't look at ourselves as being part of the same unit. There's always some kind of separation, whether it's the Brown family versus the white family. And I didn't mean to use colors. Whether it's the Alexander family versus the Hamilton family, or the Bloods versus the Crips, or the Republicans versus the Democrats. Like, you got to pick a side.
Exactly.
You can't just come together as a whole.
Right.
One thing my father told me, Joe has heard this. He said my father was very big on a favor for a favor means progress.
It does. It really does.
Mhm.
It really does. You know, I had a homeboy that I went to school with. I was telling you about this the other night, Dom. I had a
Hmm.
homeboy I went to school with. He ended up going through some issues. So I said, yo, you can come crash with us or whatever. You ain't even got to worry about no bread. Just buy your own food.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I was telling him about that whole barter system that I came up with growing up on Long Island, growing up in New York. You
Hmm.
know, where you look out for one individual and that other individual looks out for you. And they ain't even got to be somebody that you like.
Right.
There's a certain amount of respect there for the fact that you went out of your way for that individual. And I
Mhm.
told him on a trash day, I said, look outside and look at our trash can versus everybody else's. And he's like, I look like they didn't take your trash. And the reason why it looked like they didn't take our trash is because our trash can was still sitting there with the top on it, right off of the curb in the street, sitting there looking neat. Everybody else's trash can was thrown up on the sidewalk, knocked over, flipped over. Some people had trash out on the road. But you know what? Every Christmas, we go and get those 20 packs of cards,
Hmm.
throw a dollar bill in there, throw a $5 bill up in there.
Hmm.
You'll go to Sam's Club, get that little sparkling cider, that little cheap shit. There's 3 of y'all in the truck. Here, y'all, it's a 3-pack. Y'all split that up.
Hmm.
You know, the fact that we looked out for them and we knew it was so serious that we knew when there was either a new person on the route or
Mhm.
somebody was covering the route. Because then our trash cans looked like everybody else's trash cans. But when it was the usual dudes,
Hmm.
like they remembered the fact that we, you know, that we kind of threw them a bone.
Right.
Okay.
You know,
Mm.
that favor for a favor goes a long way.
Hmm.
A long way.
Hmm.
And just to add to that, well, actually, I guess just to counteract to that, yeah, a favor for a favor does go a long way, but let's be real, like, we don't trust each other. Like, people don't trust other people. You'll
Yeah.
find one, like, you're maybe one of a few who's able to say, to the person you went to high school with, hey, you could crash with me, don't worry about, anything, just buy your own food. How many in your community, like, how many people in your community you think would be willing to do that, bring a
You
stranger
know
into
what?
their home?
You know
That's
what?
like a
That's
Caribbean thing, in my opinion. Like,
and that's something that the dude mentioned to me too. He's like, yo, like I mean, like I know we cool and everything, but yo, I don't know nobody. Like I've had homeboys that I grew up with that I can't call up right now and crash on their sofa. And I'm like, well, shit, you know, I was raised different,
right.
you know, and
So,
I don't expect that because I know I was raised different. I
mhm,
know better than to expect that from other people.
mhm, right. So that's what I, just to go back to far as the question, why once, a rapper or whoever it is, a black, African American, or once they become successful, why do they move out of the hood? That's the reason why. You can't trust everyone.
You
Yes,
can't.
a lot of times, you think that, your whole community is supporting you. However, there are others who have ulterior motives.
Hmm.
So it's not about supporting you. They're looking at you as if you're going to be their lifeline, and then that they wouldn't have to work as hard as you did because you're just going to put them on. There's a lot of people in the community who have that mentality. Oh, he made it, so now once he come back, or if he's still in the neighborhood, he should be able to give me, like, spot me a 20 if I'm short 20.
Hmm.
And that's not how it works. Just like Nipsey stayed in his hood because he really wanted to unite his community and to show them, like, listen, his main message was to buy up the block, right? So
Right.
once we buy up the block, all of these businesses are going to be black owned. We can start building wealth. That was his whole, you know the whole reason why he wanted to start this, continuing the marathon, right?
Right.
And look at this person that he actually grew up with,
Hmm.
Hmm.
was the person who killed him.
Yeah.
So how can they even trust to stay in their hood once they make it? You can't.
No, you can't expect it because
You,
that's the automatic reality that's going to happen.
right. So, you know,
And
and
that takes
we're
me
not
back
as
to
united as we seem. We're
Hmm.
not as united as we should be. Let's be realistic about that, because the main like, for me, from what I see, when black people or minorities tend to unite is when there's a tragedy that has taken place.
Hmm.
speak on it.
but, but once we get over the hump or whatever the hard time is, it's like you don't even know the person who lived down the block no more. Like,
Nope.
Right.
that's how it is, and that's the
Half
problem.
half the time when we are united on something, and this is a sad reality, and y'all can disagree with this if you want, but half the time when our people do come together about something, it's not genuine. It's for show. You know,
Right.
it's to get those likes on Instagram because they post for
Mm-hmm.
that photo. It's to get
Right.
those
They're
views and
performing.
likes. Right, it's to get those views and likes on YouTube so that they can get their little monetization, so get their hours up. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's not because they actually genuinely agree about a quote unquote movement.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to target anybody that's in this Black Lives Matter movement, but I'm willing to bet that there's a large percentage of these individuals that are just there for show.
Right.
Right.
And I agree with you, because those people who are actually making moves, they are not all over social media talking
No,
this, talking that, doing all this, show and dance. They're actually behind the scenes, making shit happen
Hmm.
or trying
I,
to make things happen.
I would
Go,
have
go.
to say that the LGBTQ community, man, that was a lot to say.
it's a lot of
Um,
letters.
yeah, it's a lot of letters. That was like the whole alphabet. Um, I would say if we use the way they structured their organization and their organizational skills and worked like that, maybe we will have a chance to move forward.
Right.
They have people that are in politics just
Mm-hmm.
making different moves here and there for these
Mm-hmm.
things to happen, and
Right.
they're lobbying and they're protesting and they're doing all these things. And the only thing I don't understand is you have the animal rights group and all these other people, right? When it
Mm-hmm.
comes down for Black Lives Matter, when it comes time for Black Lives Matter and people are protesting, where are all these other communities that were out there and we were advocating for you to get what you needed?
But that's how it
Nowhere to
always.
be found.
That
Nowhere to be
that's
found.
that's another good point. That's another good point, because you have to remember, um at the beginning of this presidential election and everything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
This President 45, this
Right.
man talked about so many different race, and you saw a lot of us minorities joining together, and and defending whomever he was talking about or whatever it
Right.
is. He attacked Muslim people, he
Yeah.
attacked Spanish people, he
Mm-hmm.
attacked Asian people, and
Right.
and black people were behind all of these minorities, saying, yeah, it's not right, you shouldn't, whatever it is. We were there, right?
And the
Right.
sad
As
truth is
soon as
the
Black
where the
Lives Matter began, where
where they
are
at?
where yeah,
Where they at?
where are they?
Hmm. Hmm.
And the sad truth is we'll jump on that bandwagon because we know as soon as you start talking about this group, whether it's the Jews, whether it's the Asians, whether it's whoever, we know we're next.
Right.
Right.
We know we're next.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because we're usually the primary target to begin with.
Right.
Right.
But the fact that you want to take The fact that you want to take the Koreans and put them out front, the fact that you want to take the Ugandans and put them out front, the fact that you want to take this particular group over here and put them out front,
Mm-hmm.
we know sooner or later it's gonna be all right. Now back to y'all niggas.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this we have this like this thought that, okay, if we back these people up, maybe they will back us up, but that's not the case. And we
With
have
no
evidence.
contract.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that
Yeah.
now with this Black Lives Matter, because a lot of these people are silent at this moment.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna call the whole LGBTQ community out, but I will call. I'm gonna call the people that are in the organization as far as getting things done. Where you guys at? I've talked to other gay and lesbian people, and they are with and supporting us as far as that is concerned, as far as
Mhm.
Black Lives Matter. But when it comes down to the organization
Mm-hmm.
that put laws into effect that you can have gay marriages and everything like that, and we were sitting there going,
Right.
well, we backing you 100%. Just do you. You know what I'm saying? Everybody should have a right to do them. So
Right.
where are you now that we need you and we need backing on
We need
our
the support.
situation?
Yeah. We need
We
back.
need
See,
that same support we were giving you.
Yeah.
We're
see,
not
that
asking you.
reminds.
We're not asking for money. We're not asking to you for you to go out of your way to do something that we wouldn't do for you.
Right.
I just
Well,
don't
see,
get it.
that reminds me of the whole situation with the Hawaiians when the whole
Mhm.
LGBT LMNOP community thing was going on. When they were making their movement to try to get their right to actually marry one another,
Right.
the Hawaiians reached out to them and said, "Look, we agree because we come from a culture where we're polygamist,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not, it's a sacred part of our culture that when an individual is able, they take care of their community. That's how, that's the mentality of how they look at it.
Right.
In other words, it's kind of like a no child left behind thing, and that doesn't mean, that one chick is so ugly ain't nobody gonna marry her. No, it's about growing the culture and growing their family and growing their people. And they were told by the higher ups in that LGBT thing community that no, we're not going to support that because that's not natural. How in the fuck are you going to tell them that shit not natural when people have been telling you what you trying to do is not natural?
Right.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah, I had a lady come up to me because I do the election judge work, and I do electioneering work.
Mm-hmm.
And I arrive at the polls early so I can get the counts on the machines and all that. And I had a lady come up to me and say, and then this was Obama Part 1. This was the Obama Part 1 election. And she said, would you be willing to sign this document or this petition in order for, basically homosexuals to get the right to get married? And I said, no. She's like, why not? You seem like, what do you have against, gay people getting married? I said, I have nothing against gay people getting married. I have everything against the government telling anybody that they have the right to marry another individual. If you really wanted your freedom and you really wanted to be able to do what you wanted to do, you wouldn't give a fuck about going down and getting a license, which is basically permission for the government to allow you to marry and couple with another individual.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want to fight for your rights and you want to get recognition for the fact that your partner is your partner. I think you're going about it the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's enough of you, you can force those insurance companies to fork over those benefits. If there's enough of you, you know what I'm saying? You can the same way you're organizing and getting the government to recognize your shit,
Mm-hmm.
you can get these corporations to recognize your shit.
Right.
I said, I told that woman, I said, if you and I wanted to go get married, we got to go apply for a license. And if there's something wrong, or they don't agree with me marrying you, they're going to deny us that license. And even if they grant us that license, we got to wait till the next day to go back down there to pick it up. So even if we went down there today with the $50 to get married, we can't get married right now.
Right.
What kind of shit is that? If anything, you should want the government out of your business and out of your household so that you can govern yourself.
Right.
It's too much government and less individuality. And another thing we mentioned about unity, I feel unity in our community is very selective.
It is.
It is.
We'll have we're still clans, posses, crews, and cliques, like Helter Skelter said.
Absolutely. We'll have a problem with a white man killing us, but not have a problem when we kill each other.
Oh,
Right.
thank you. You know, that was one of the only videos I ever made on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
When that whole Trayvon Martin situation came out,
Mm-hmm.
I put my hood up and I sat down in front of the webcam. I'll probably never do that shit again, but I put my hood up and I sat down in front of the webcam, and I'm like, y'all are out there marching and protesting for this young man, and it's tragic what happened, but this was a kid in Florida that you didn't even know.
Right.
You know, where were y'all when my little cousin got shot and gunned down in DC? You know, where were y'all when the countless individuals that got murdered on these streets every day in Baltimore City, and not by the police, not by some white man, but by some dude that lived on the next block, or some dude that was part of the next crew or the next clique that gunned them down? Y'all wasn't marching then. Y'all ain't put up your hoods then.
Right.
Needless to say, that wasn't a popular video.
No, but that's because they have neutralized the fact that, oh yeah, black people kill each other all the time. So, it's not that it makes it okay, but in their mindset, I would say society has neutralized it to the point where it's kind of like a nuisance. Oh yeah, this person got shot by a stray bullet, and it's not going to make the news. That doesn't make the news because they know that, oh yeah, black on black crime. So that's why when it's a different nationality who does it, like a white person, they go in uproar because it I don't know, it doesn't make sense either. But that's how
I agree. Unfortunately, if we did start doing that, if we did start putting up our hoods and start marching every time a brother shoots down another brother, it starts digging into the wound. And when you start digging into the wound and you start digging up some dirt, you're gonna find some worms. You know, why did this brother kill this brother? Well, it was drug related. Well, don't just tell me it was drug related. Why was it drug related? Why were they even in a position where they had to sell drugs? Well, Tyrone couldn't get a job anywhere, because he grew up eating lead paint chips off of the wall. So he's got like a little bipolar disorder or whatever. Like it opens up so many cans of worms. And and things that never get put into context that you're not going to hear them talk about on the news, because then they would have to acknowledge the systemic situation that we're dealing with.
Exactly. Because all of this really comes down to the systemic the systemic what's the word I use?
Systemic ideals of racism.
Right, the systemic idea or whatever you want to call it, that they have put in place to make sure that we stay in the situations that we're in. And that's where that whole mentality is. Only one can come out. Like you only find that in the hood. The community will have aspiration for one person to make it out, and that one person, if they make it out, then they are the hero, and they'll come back and rescue the rest. And it's not even like a realistic kind of way of thinking, but that's how it's set up.
It is
That's sad, but true.
It's true, but this the only person who can save you is you.
True.
People gotta take responsibility for themselves. first
Mhm.
before they take care of responsible for anybody else.
Right.
Because you lead by example. If you're not taking care of your business, how you expect to help other people take care of their business?
True indeed.
So,
That also goes into self-love too.
absolutely.
And I'm not talking about like conceitedness of love of oneself. I'm talking about just the love of oneself where you have you hold yourself in a high standard because you can pass that along to the next person easily.
Well, I mean, we're not really taught how to love ourselves. A lot of us don't know how to love ourselves. You know, we don't know how to eat right. We don't know how to treat our bodies right. You know, shit. It seems like education just gets worse and worse as the years go by. But I mean, how many schools have removed physical education? You know,
A lot of schools.
the state of Maryland has removed cursive from their public schoolings. So now, how do you expect these kids to sign a check or sign a contract when they get to a certain age? Where they just gonna put an X on the line, like the slaves did? We're not taught to have self-love. You know, we're taught to devalue ourselves and become addicts, you know, of non-chemical drugs, whether it's TV, social media, you know, fucking websites, junk food, fast food. You know, there's so much that we are addicted to, but then we look down on a crackhead because they're doing drugs. You doing a drug too, but your drug isn't a chemical. You addicted to stealing. You addicted to gambling. You addicted to sex. You know, you addicted to lying. You know, like there's a million and one things that people are addicted to that they just can't stop, and it releases that same chemical in the brain, that same feel good chemical in the brain that crackhead or that dope fiend get when they take their shot or their buzz or their smoke or when they get high. It's the same chemical release. You know, they found crafty ways for us to get our fixes. You know, unfortunately, everybody's got their something.
Right.
And to keep us blind, because along with these addictions, we're unable to see the bigger picture.
Yep.
Or distracted.
That's right.
Yeah.
A person who's not focused is not going to see the bigger picture.
They can't see the bigger picture.
That's right.
And when that person do see the bigger picture, they're a threat.
Right. You've seen them.
You know,
a lot of people. My conspiracy theory is this: a lot of people that had that epiphany are no longer with us because they've seen it.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And you know, Joe, that goes back to what you was saying before. You know, about if we could structure ourselves like the LG community or whatever.
Yeah.
LGBTQ.
That's too many damn letters. Like I speak 6 languages. You can't expect me to remember all them damn letters. There have been times where we did organize, where we did come up and we did come together and we had something good. And to this day, the only thing that has survived, the only thing that was able to survive, and it's because of the fact that they were able to take up arms and protect themselves. The only organization that's still here right now is the Nation of Islam. And I'm not validating and saying that, that they're the end all and that they're the answer. But at the end of the day, they have a plan set aside for them to have food, clothes, and shelter for themselves and for their people.
Right.
And even though they have an open door policy where anybody can join, they're not just blanketing the whole hood. They're taking care of themselves. This is the same thing that Marcus Garvey did. This is the same thing that the Black Panthers did. And look what happened to these leaders. Look at what happened with Huey. That whole free breakfast program was started by the Black Panthers.
Mhm.
Right.
You know,
And
because
with
a hungry kid isn't going to pay attention in school. So
Right.
put some food in that child's belly. That way
right,
they can grasp the concept of why 2 + 2 = 4.
right,
You know,
Mm.
we, those leaders get set up and gunned down and killed. You know,
Mhm.
and then the poor Panthers. You know, the two generals. I'm sure you heard Eddie Griffin break it down. The two generals from the Black Panthers after Huey got gunned down. You know, one went to Compton, one went to South Central. The one in Compton said, "Look, we're gonna do this just like we did with the Panthers, except when we see the police messing with Big Dom over here, we're gonna get together as a community, and there will be a community resistance in progress." And that's what they call themselves. They call themselves Crips. It was because it was a community resistance in progress if somebody tried to come in that neighborhood and fuck with Dom. And the dude over in South Central said, "Hey, look, this is how we're gonna do it, the same way the Black Panthers did it. When we see Joey walking down the street, that's our brother, that's our family, that's our blood."
Mhm.
Now, years later, declassified documents come out about how the CIA went into Compton, dressed in all red, and started shooting down Crip members, and then went into South Central dressed in all blue, gunning
Same.
down blood members. And
Yes.
nobody gives a fuck about these declassified documents because they're
Mhm.
140 pages each, and nobody wants to sit down and read. We don't even want to read the terms of service on our smartphones when we first get them, let alone
Yeah.
sit down and read some declassified government document. Our government has admitted to starting a war between the Bloods and Crips. Our government has admitted to gunning down and killing Huey Newton. Our government has admitted to setting up and hiring the shooters to kill Malcolm X.
Mhm.
Betty Shabazz got money. The year we graduated in 1996, Betty Shabazz got money from the United States government. Don't nobody talk about it. Don't nobody care about it. Because don't nobody want to take the time to sit there and read it, because that goes back to us being satiated with some type of fix.
And
You
not
know?
only that, just to piggyback on what you're saying, everything that you said is so true, because this is how they were able to get us to basically go against each other, but
Yeah.
turning on each other, just like they during the protests, when some of the protesting was going on, and some of these police officers were dressed in regular clothes, and they were throwing bricks and throwing other things to cause chaos, and making it seem like, it was, these people cannot protest, like we cannot peacefully protest, when they were the ones who was causing all of the, all of the
drama.
issues. Yeah, all
Yeah.
of the drama.
Yo, these officers had bricks in their trunks of their police cars.
Yeah, and in their backpacks, they had other things just to cause the drama, to continue to make us look bad, as if we cannot unite, as if we cannot come together peacefully to get our message across. And that's exactly what they did back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny? I take what Dave Chappelle said when he was talking about a police officer interaction with a black man back in the day, and if he wanted to kill him, he was going to sprinkle a little bit of crack on him, and that
Yep.
was the report.
It is drug related.
It was
Mhm.
drug related.
Yep.
Now, as funny as that situation is,
Mm-hmm.
that is what you were calling earlier, Derek. You said that's
Satire.
the satire. The
It's
satire
satire.
of that. It's the bigger picture.
Yeah,
That's the bigger picture.
that's
We got to
right.
paint it. We got to paint the picture to make it look this way. Anything outside of that is wrong.
Right.
So
Mhm.
if my point of view is black and white, it doesn't matter as long as I know that white is white and everything else is that color. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's it. I'm going to protect this over here, and that I could care less about.
Listen, I've been a victim. I've been a victim of that very same scenario. When I got arrested for protecting my younger brother, and they, to the point that they put in a report that I helped my brother jump out the second floor window while I was standing in front of the police officers in my living room.
Right. They fabricate things to make it look like so that way it can favor whatever they said.
Yeah.
Right.
So I told the judge, how can I do that when I'm standing right in front of them in my living room, in which they weren't even supposed to be in my living room? This would be outside because they didn't have a warrant to come into my house.
Yep.
So, like I said.
And that's the reason why they think that they are above the law, because they have, let's be real, these police officers, a lot of them, they are able to fabricate a lot of information on their police report because they have the support and the backing of the court system.
Right.
So, trying to defund the just to go back, trying to defund the police force, that's just one entity of what needs to be, like of the ladder that we need to go up from in order for us to get some kind of real respond or real
Results.
Right.
The metaphor that comes to mind for me is it's just one cog in the machine.
Right.
Again, the key word that the sister used here was that they're going to the court system. It's a system. It's not just it's not just a couple of bad officers making it bad for all the other good cops. It's a system.
That's right.
And unfortunately, sometimes the good cops even find themselves falling in line with the system, unintentionally, and they perpetuate the same system that has been in place for generations.
That's right.
Sometimes it doesn't make it's not like they can have the actual choice. Do you really choose a stranger over your family? I'm going to put myself in this situation and my family's stability may be in jeopardy.
Right.
That stability it's the uncertainty of what's happening. Now, what you were saying earlier, Dom, about you were talking about players not being not performing as far as sports events are concerned and things like that. But when you have the announcers walking off on set,
yes,
yeah,
Kenny Smith,
that's very bold. That's a very bold statement to do that, because there's an uncertainty with that. Yes, it's respected what he's done, but who's to say he'll have a job coming into work?
Can I tell you something?
How many violations did he commit against his contract that he signed with the entity? You know what I'm saying? That they can find an excuse to let him go.
Gotcha. Carbine, let me hear what you got to say.
No, I was gonna say in regards to that, because I was watching when the commentary, when all of that was going on, and when he got up and left, because it was just to show that he was tired of all of this. Like, he's tired of trying to act like talking about it is what's gonna get a response. So he wanted to show that he's physically behind the movement. If at that time, if Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal and would have gotten up along with him, that would have spoken to, like, with so much volume. Then guess what? Kenny Smith would probably, wouldn't have a problem with getting his job back. But the fact that it was like he walked off by himself alone, and Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal stayed in their seats, it was kind of like, where's the support there? Where's the support? Because, everyone who's watching,
I get what you're saying. Even that's what I was actually, my point was, when you have people in those positions, you have like Shaquille O'Neal, he has endorsements and other things that he's working behind the scenes. I would join you because I do agree with you, but I can't do that right now because it may mess my stuff up over here.
That's gonna mess up them Papa John stocks.
Right.
Yeah,
And I'm
but
not just trying to be funny when I say that because it really would.
it really would. But that would, like, a movement like this, where you do want to show that you have some kind of power and change, right? In trying to make a change, would, I would think like this would be worth it. This would be something where it is worth it, because all of these companies are right now on social media claiming to be behind or supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. So therefore they wouldn't have any issue if you felt that you needed to walk off the set of your, of during your commentary or whatever. They shouldn't have an issue with that, because according to their websites and their companies, they support Black Lives Matter. They support this movement right now.
Just like they supported Trump in his race for presidency.
Speak on it.
I'm just saying.
Nah, but the thing is, they support him because they support him because they finally found a president that give them all the tax breaks they want.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Reaganomics Part 2, the remix.
Right.
Listen,
When it boils down to it, it's a capitalistic situation. You know what I'm saying? It boils down to money, and that's a big issue in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But now the thing,
what they say, the have and the have not.
now the thing is that something that Stephen A. had brought up too. Yes, we do all this protesting, things like that. What are we going to do next now? What's the next step now? We can't just sit there and protest and nothing happen.
Yeah, because as soon as they lift these COVID restrictions, everybody's going to want to go back to work.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody stand on them protest lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's
well,
my biggest question since everything.
Well, the next thing they're trying to push is to go out and vote. That's what they're pushing. Besides the protesting, they are just urging everyone to go out and vote. Vote for your councilmen, your congressmen, your the treasury in your town, or like whomever will have who is supposed to be representing your voice in your community. So that's what they're pushing.
Absolutely.
I think the only problem with that is, how do you know this person is in my best interest and is not doing the same thing as other politicians before him?
So
you have to hold them accountable. If you want my vote, because you have to remember, these politicians, yeah, of course, a lot of them are going to put on a facade just to get your vote. However, you as an individual, you have that right to not only do your own research, but also to hold them accountable to what it is that they are agreeing to do for your community.
And you are absolutely right with that, sister. Unfortunately, a lot of us are either miseducated or uneducated when it comes to that. We'll get on the election line and we'll vote for that particular senator, councilman, or governor or whatever. But when it comes, but when they don't back up what they were saying, nobody goes back to those to their office. Nobody shows up at their office. Nobody starts the petitions. Nobody writes the letters to actually say, hey, you didn't do what you said you was going to do. You said you was going to paint the curbs red in the neighborhood. We ain't seen one drop of red paint in the county since you've been elected.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, that's where those town meetings come in. To be honest, I guess it depends on the community itself, because there are a lot of different towns where they will hold town meetings. They will hold town meetings so that way you can voice your opinion, so that way you can hold these politicians accountable for what they they said that they would do, what they would provide to the community and to your children, to the school, and your tax dollars, where exactly it's supposed to be going. Yeah, I know there are a lot of people who are uneducated. There are different communities who are uneducated on their, you know, their power to vote. So that's why I think, besides the protesting, a lot of these activists are pushing the voting, where you have to go out and vote, and you know, and certain things that you should look for when you're voting for whoever it is you're voting to represent you and your community.
I think
It
I,
is.
I think all valid points, but I think the fact that us as citizens of this country, we don't realize that our tax money is the reason why this government runs the way it runs. And we have to take ownership of that. We have to take our hands and get our hands dirty. If we don't like somebody, we got to get them out of there. Forget about the voting, get them out of there immediately.
Well, you know, just like how this how they're talking about starting those uncomfortable conversations. You know, this goes back to something that we were talking about on one of our older podcasts. We need to start having some of those uncomfortable conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got the four of us in this forum right now talking about something,
Mm-hmm.
but all four of us can go away and talk to another group of four, and then come back to this group of four and say, hey, when we were talking to somebody else, we came up with A, B, and C, and let's try X, Y, and Z, and actually start trying to make moves. Every answer isn't. I mean, every solution isn't going to be a violent one.
Right.
True.
We got 1,000,001 ways. I've been saying this since 9/11. If all the Black people in this country just took one day, and did not buy shit, we could probably crash this whole economy.
Yes.
If we didn't go to any stores, if we didn't go to any restaurants, if we just took one day, whether that be January 1st, August 30th, if we just took and we did not put any money into this system, and we all just took the day off from work, and we ain't do shit.
Black Friday.
How about that?
That would be great. That is great, and that is a great suggestion. But how many of us are willing to do that? Like
That's the other part of that.
that's the other part of it. But I love that idea. I wish some of these activists or some of these leaders would actually pitch that for us to do something in that regard, because then it would show how much our dollars are worth in this economy, in the economy.
Absolutely. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. I like it. So my thing and my question is now, where do we go from here? We're gonna go and vote. We're gonna hold our people that we vote in responsible and accountable for the actions that they don't come through with, their promises, the propaganda. Well, I call it propaganda until they actually do it. What's next after that?
What's next after that? We keep having those uncomfortable conversations and keep throwing shit up against the wall until something actually sticks.
Right. Because you have to remember, a lot of times in these situations, these politicians, they will do, especially when it's a community that's really united. And in these town meetings, a lot of times when they are being held accountable for things that they promised that they haven't actually provided, they will do one good thing. And once they do that one good thing, that's the problem with a lot of our people as well. The politician will do one good thing, and then that's supposed to erase all of the other things that they haven't done. Well, at least he tried. So we need to get off of that mentality And if they said they were going to do X, Y, and Z, we need to stay on their ass until they do X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
It's like I give you a piece of Snicker, and you're happy. I want the
Right.
whole Snicker. I want the
Right.
whole pack of Snickers, not just
Right.
not a piece, the whole thing.
Matter
You
of fact,
gotta.
I want the whole pallet, and I want a cut on every sale. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we get there? You know,
Right.
see, we're talking about, and this is why I said, you know, after we take that first step, we got to have more conversations, because we're talking about taking on a system. You
Right.
know, each step that we take is not going to just erase the whole system, but you know, we
Mhm.
got to do it step by step.
Right.
You know, getting out there and voting is just that.
Part-
You know, like the sister said, you know, we hold the power to hold these elected officials accountable for what they said they was going to do, and if they don't do it, well, then we have that voting power to put somebody else in their place.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's not a flex, and that's not a threat. You know, and we need to actually do that shit.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know,
You know, if they
and
said if they said they're gonna paint all the roads green, and we don't see a drop of paint on the road, vote
We
somebody else in.
yes.
Take that power from them. You know,
Mhm.
let them know that we're gonna hold them accountable.
Right.
we need to have a mentality like the most powerful ethnic group in the world. We all know who the most powerful ethnic group in the world is. They've caused Nick Cannon. They've caught Nick Cannon his wilding out.
Goodbye, shalom.
You know what I'm saying? They go by
The lighter part. The lighter part of that. The lighter
Yeah.
part of that. Not
The
not
lighter
darker,
part, not the
the
darker
lighter
part.
part.
And
Yeah, don't start it on that.
no, listen, that's another podcast, and we might as well all not have a video on, because you know it's over for us.
Look, I could tell you right now.
Oh man, see?
I'll break it down like so, Pharaohs. It was 1994, Brooklyn, New York. A white Jewish woman, told they weren't the real Jews, that they were Ashkenazis because they came from the kingdom of the Khazars. Their kingdom was converted into Judaism. They were not one of the 12 tribes, and they had no business being in Palestine and taking that land from them people. I heard that from one of those white Jews' mouths herself.
Yeah, but
and when I looked it up, she never told me no.
Yo, hey, bro, you remember our podcast about false prophets?
Yes.
The Torah.
Mhm.
Last time I checked, that was based in Egypt.
Say again?
Last time I checked, the Torah is about Egypt.
Well, see now, it's you really want me to get into this, because
No, that'd be false prophets part 2.
I'm about to say it wasn't Egypt, it was Nasir, means 2 lands. We don't know that was Egypt. But see now, here's our ignorance, because we don't speak that original language. So when we see it in English and we see the word Egypt, we assume that they're talking about the Egypt that's over there in Africa right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't understand that Nasir specifically means the place of 2 lands. And the only place that we know that fits that description is Egypt, because in the north you had Lower Egypt, which was Kemet, and in the south you had Upper Egypt, which was Memphis. And the 2 kingdoms together got conquered by Alexander, and he's the one that called it Egypt, because it comes from the Greek word Egyptos, which means south of the Aegean Sea.
Mm-hmm.
But see, those were the same Greek motherfuckers that held the first council of Nicaea, that ended up translating all that shit into Greek, and that got translated into Latin, and then that got mistranslated into English. So we're looking at a remix of a remix of a remix.
And then we created Jesus, whose real name is Yeshua.
Ooh, don't get me
His
started
real
on Yeshua.
his real name is Yeshua. His name
Don't
is
get me started
Joshua.
on Yeshua. The letter J wasn't even invented until the 1600s. So who the fuck is J?
Yeah, like I said, false prophet. That's like they said. Remember, just like I mentioned on false prophet, Pat Robertson said Haiti made a pact with the devil to get the independence.
Ignorance.
And
That's you thinking that any God that's not your God is the devil. Get the fuck out of here.
then you read in Nostradamus's Seven Cities of God. Port-au-Prince is one of the cities of God. Just saying, guys. Just saying. Just saying. Let me just anger the ethnic group even more. That Haitians are considered the Levy tribe of the Jews. Oh boy. Oh boy. Let's not go there.
Man, look, boy.
Hold on, bro. Haiti provided safe haven for Holocaust survivors. Oh,
don't wait, hold up. Don't forget they helped out America during their little Civil War.
Oh,
yeah, they did.
Oh, no, Civil War or Revolution?
Oh, no, excuse me, the Revolutionary War. My bad. Revolutionary. Yeah. My bad. Thank you for correcting me.
You don't talk about that. Joe will tell you. He opened my eyes to when he went to Savannah, Georgia. He done told me the whole story, and I promised him that we're gonna do a podcast about his trip to Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, that was eye opening. The story was told backwards to us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get into it right now. The story was told backwards to us.
They got a whole shrine of Haiti in Savannah, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Look, sometimes you got to start the story backwards. Like you got to start in Chicago and follow the Mississippi down with Pont de Cerveau back to Haiti, who founded Chicago after leaving Haiti and revolting against Napoleon. And I'm not Haitian, by the way. I just know some shit.
I'm just saying, now you wonder why Chicago has all these problems. See, that's how they put it. That's how they put it out there. If you're going off the history, what Derek just said, now you find out why this turmoil coming from Chicago. Put that together. Mesh that together. Why is it? I'm pointing at Chicago because it goes back, and it's not this way. It's that way. So it's not right. It's not right.
Look from the papers to from the ISIS papers to the actual Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. There's so much miseducation that or there's either miseducation or hidden education. You know, another thing that we could do that would help empower us about the kings and queens that we come from, as opposed to thinking that we were just a bunch of poor, helpless, beaten down slaves that got forced to come over here in ships. 80% of the people out of Africa went fucking Brazil. Most of the black people in the Caribbean are indigenous black people that were already there when the white people showed up. They are Tainos. They are Arawaks. They just got conquered by they got conquered by the nation of the language that they speak today. So the Haitians speak French. They got conquered by the French. The Dominicans speak Spanish. They got conquered by the Spanish. We don't have our passports and we don't travel, but we can go to these places. We can go down into Mexico and go into those pyramids and see those beautiful black people drawn on the walls with their dreadlocks and their big butts and their big noses and their big lips.
Right.
And if those are the original indigenous Mexicans, then why does the average Mexican not look like that today? Oh, now there's another uncomfortable conversation.
Listen, that's what the True Players podcast is all about, making it uncomfortable. We're not gonna follow the rules
You know,
that
but
are given to us. We're gonna make our own rules and make it uncomfortable. If whether or not you want to listen is another story.
see, these are the kings and the queens that we came from. The Negus Neguste, the God of gods and the King of kings and the Lord of lords that they tried to flip back on us and Stella and tell us to praise as a Jesus with blonde hair and blue eyed. How you blonde hair and blue eyed when you come from a region of people that blonde hair and blue eyed? And the only written description of you talks about you looking like something that's burnt.
Definitely.
And a lot of
Right.
times these topics are uncomfortable to people because they want it to be uncomfortable for them because it interrupts their regular life. The life that they've already been conditioned to. And so when these topics come up and you're trying to open their eyes to what the history and why a lot of these things are are happening, or this is the reason why this happened in the past, they don't want to hear it. Even when they have the information in their face, they are willing to turn the blind eye to that information because it interrupts their regular life that they've already have accustomed to.
It fucks up the system.
Right.
And I'm down for fucking up the system. I'm serious. Let's get the conversation started. Let's get the ball rolling. I don't know it all, but I've done enough reading. I've had enough conversations, and I might not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I do know how to put two and two together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I want to be able to walk into the church and have this conversation. I want to be able to walk into the mosque and have this conversation. How was your book written by a man who was illiterate? Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Just like that whole defunding the police, it's just the beginning.
Right.
What follows up and what happens after that? Okay, you go out and you vote, but are you holding your elected officials accountable?
Mm-hmm.
We've had this conversation, but what did we get out of it? And how are we going to grow from it? And what is our next step going to be? Okay, we marched down on City Hall. We appeared on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox.
Mm-hmm.
We got the attention. What we going to do now?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You gotta start and you have a start and a finish. I think this situation that we deal with Jacob Blake, this started long before him. It came to the forefront, I believe, with Rodney King. Did it continue on with Trayvon Martin?
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter that George Zimmerman is still walking the streets is beyond my comprehension to this day.
I'm surprised he lasted that long.
He's still lasting.
Well, he has the white supremacists behind him.
Even with that though, I couldn't be a neighbor to him and allow him to walk the streets.
But that's what I'm saying to you, with far as you, like, a lot of people are willing to turn the blind eye so that way their regular life is not interrupted.
Right.
Their comfortable life does not get interrupted.
Right.
So the neighbors who know that what he did was wrong and they do live right next door to him, do you think they're gonna speak up? Or are they going to testify? No, they're not, because that's going to interrupt their comfortable life as they know it.
No.
Look, I stated earlier, violence is not always the answer, but I am completely perplexed how God's green earth is that man still drawing breath in 2020?
Mm.
I do not get it. I do not understand. As many people marched in every city, in every major city, we had people marching. Nobody at any point decided to actually go down to Florida, or anybody in Florida to just go around the corner, go over to that town and find him. I mean, I'm not advocating vigilanteism, but
This is the issue when you live in a first world country.
shit,
Because if it's in a third world country like Haiti, he would not be walking.
Nope, he would not.
He'd probably speaking goat. He'd either be speaking goat or be in the ground.
Because the people in the community would have their own justice.
how about that?
And this is the issue I have with Botham Jean's family, who I believe they're Haitian. I mean, I'm being silent. I'm giving a moment of silence because I'm gonna say something that is going to offend them. A real Haitian family would not go hug somebody who killed their son in a courtroom.
You know that I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that, I was a little baffled because I didn't understand that whole thing either. It's one thing to forgive,
Mm-hmm.
because when you forgive, you're forgiving the person for your own self, for your own mental health, for your own well-being. That's what forgiveness is. It's really for you, not for that person. So
Right.
yes, you forgive, but to go as far as giving this woman, this murderer, a hug,
Mm-hmm.
I was floored. I didn't understand it at all. And yeah, I do believe, I'm not sure if they are Haitian, because I know we're we're just saying that because of the name,
The last name,
and
yeah.
everything, the last name. But I didn't understand that, and I didn't agree with it. I didn't feel like the hug was necessary, because I forgave you. I forgive you, but I'm not going to hug you, because that right there tells you that, oh yeah, I know you killed my family member, but it's kind of like making her feel like, I don't know, making her feel like it was okay. Like, it's okay that you did that. No, it's not okay.
It's
It's
not
not.
okay. And it set a bad precedent for the future killing of police officers against innocent minorities. It did set that up, even though it's already been in motion. But it pretty much gave it more ammunition by doing that, in my opinion.
I don't know if it gave it ammunition, but I think that alone, that situation alone was just weird. Just watching it was weird. I felt uncomfortable watching him get. I didn't understand what was going on. I even said to my daughter, I was like, "Do you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this really happening? Why is he hugging her? Why, like, this lady?" And even the story itself, when you just hearing the story, she went into the wrong apartment.
On the wrong floor.
On the wrong floor. You walk into your house. You mean to tell me you don't know what your house is supposed to look like? You walk into the house and it just didn't make sense. There was something else in that story. There was another hole that they did not give, that's information that they did not give to the public of what really went down, as far as her busing into his apartment building and gunning him down. And then they just expect us to just, oh yeah, the family forgave her, so the public should forgive her too. No, I will not. Don't know her, but
how about the sentiment? Oh, that family showed class by doing that for her. What?
Right, that's what I'm saying to you. It's as if like they want the whole community to be just as forgiving and hug it out. No, this is not what. No, it's not happening.
This is what I'm gonna say about
Sorry, no disrespect to King, but that's that turn up bullshit that got King hosed down and shot in the head.
Yep.
I'm gonna say one thing. I'm gonna say one thing as we get ready to wrap up. when there's a delay in justice, there is no justice.
Mm.
Yes. Very good point.
And we see this with Breonna Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
The police officers entered her home and shot her, and then blame her boyfriend because they said he had a gun or whatever they claim he had. But mind you, if you enter someone's house at 2:00 in the morning, your mentality is
You
totally
deserve to have
different.
a gun on you.
Your mentality is different. It's either like we mentioned in previous podcasts, fight or flight, or I call fight or die. You enter my house. I don't care if you're a police officer or anybody else. You enter my house, you deserve to die.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing in my house?
You're breaking in. You're breaking in.
I did not give you permission to enter my house.
That's right.
And the thing is that, let's give you a scenario. If a police officer, I mean, not a police officer, if anybody enters your home, a robber or perpetrator enters your home, and you shoot him in the back in New York State, it is considered murder on your part.
Right.
Right, because you're shooting them in the back. That
Right.
means they were leaving.
But they haven't left.
But that's the same. That would bring us back to Jacob Blake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that should be considered, that officer should be charged with attempted murder.
Exactly.
But what is he's not even, I don't even think he's on leave right now. I think he's back working or whatever else they have him doing.
Absolutely. And this is the issue. This is why we as minorities get frustrated with white people. I was listening, I was driving, doing my other job, you know. I was listening on WFAN, listening to Boomer and Gio show on WFAN. And Boomer said some that kind of bothered me, which in essence that as a fellow New Yorker, he should know better. That he said, "Oh, we gotta wait for all the facts to come out before we make a judgment on the situation." Dude, there is video showing that the man was being followed by police officers to his car. Police officer drew his gun. The man bent over and got shot 7 times. Now, if just for the sake of the argument, if the man had a weapon, one bullet is sufficient, not 7.
Right. And you want to know the facts that they're waiting on? Mm-hmm. It's the facts that the media is now trying to portray for Jacob Blake, talking about his record. That's the fact. So that way they can
trying to villainize victim.
Right. Exactly. To show that he was a criminal anyways. That's so that way the public who's watching this is just going to agree, well, he was a criminal, so therefore, like, that's that should be justification for him getting shot in the back, and it's not.
It is, and the thing I try to point out to these people, it's never okay to take someone else's life. It's not your right to do that. That's God's right to do that.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's the issue, and that's why we can never move forward from these situations. We got still people backing up police officers blindly. Listen, I got no problems with police officers. I got family members who are police officers. I got family members who are FBI agents, state troopers, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the day, like I said on the previous podcast with Rules of Engagement, everybody wants to be able to go home to their family.
Yeah. Yes.
Everybody wants to go home to their family. Why is it always the minorities, us, not able to go home to our families alive?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the issue. And it seems like we come out, we speak to these people of the privileged race, as I like to call them, about this, and they get upset and don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So until you're ready
to uncomfortable conversation.
Until you're ready to look yourself in the mirror and realize that you're the problem. Your mentality is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Then we will never get past the issue.
Right.
There'll always be protests. There'll always be riots. There'll be all these things that's happening until you really, really come to the table and look yourself in the mirror and say, yes, I'm the problem. I need to change.
Right.
That's the issue. And I don't want, and you know, there's some privileged people, the privileged race, who they play. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. And they go back home and they say, this thing trying to start a revolution.
Mhm. Mhm.
They'll call you nigga in that. They call you nigga in their household, but they won't say it in your face.
And when they are amongst each other, and let's say one of their own says something that's out of pocket, they stay silent. The conversation that you had with them, you know, prior to that, where they said they agreed with you, they're not going to defend you when they are amongst each other and someone says something that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another problem as well.
And you know how they know how to trick you into believing that they were on your side. They initiate the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at like with a side eye. I'm like, no, that's not how. I'll be like, let's not have this conversation. You're not ready for the truth. When you're really ready for the truth, you're going to fully listen to what I'm telling you, and listen to what I've explained to you, or what I go through as a black man. You know, that's the issue. They're not listening. They're just hearing. They're not listening. And when they are fully able to listen, then maybe real substantial change will happen.
Listen and understand. They need to
Exactly.
listen and to understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of them,
mm-hmm.
they're unable to understand because they never had to deal with what we have to deal with as Black
True
people.
indeed.
Right?
True indeed.
And in their heads, they can't. The way they process information, I guess, is completely different because they can. Yeah, I really believe that they process information different because you can have a whole conversation, an educated conversation where you are trying to educate them on certain things about history or just in general about things that are happening now, why this movement is so important. And as soon as they see there's a riot or something on social media or the news that's being played, everything that you just said went out the window and they're like, oh, so why do they have to be rioting? Why are they doing this? Why? And it's like, you still don't get it. This is how this is what they are doing to get the attention that they need. Well, some of them, it's a lot of it sometimes is misplaced, but you know, it goes right out the window.
I think it's comprehension. Their comprehension level is low.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not just that simple. There's not just that simple that their comprehension level is low. Like the sister said, the way that they think is different. You know, for some reason, I keep thinking about a couple years ago, there was a white dude who talked about his first experience going to a black cookout. And it was funny the way he was describing it, because at the end of the day, he was like, that was the best food he ever had, and those were the friendliest people he had ever met. Mm-hmm. But when he started his rant, he says, you know, I got plenty of black friends, but they keep accusing me of putting them in white situations. Like I pass a police officer on a 2-lane road. Apparently, you ain't supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. No, you're not supposed to do that. Like, yeah, but see, at that same time, what I respect about him is the fact that he did not understand that, but he was able to listen and he tried to. Like I got a lot of respect for an individual who at least attempts to understand it, who attempts to use a little bit of empathy and try to put themselves in that position.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm gonna hit you guys with another thing too. The only way they truly understand is when they marry into that culture.
And sometimes they still don't.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there are a lot of times they still don't get it.
Right.
Gary Owens.
Yeah. Listen. You could eat all the Julian sauce bar and agree on say you're down, but you're not really down till you understand what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Yeah.
You like our food though, right?
And that's quite good. That's quite and some arroz con pollo.
I mean,
that's some New York shit.
No, I actually met an NYPD cop who was married to a Haitian woman. who dealt with a situation where one of his colleagues pulled his son over and harassed him, not knowing until they took the son down to the precinct. He came and picked his son up, that he was the son of a cop,
Right.
a white cop at that.
Mm-hmm.
How embarrassing for that other cop.
Yeah, and mind you, that was the son of a cop who was his superior.
How about
How about that?
here? How about here in
I
Baltimore?
wonder what that conversation was like.
How about here in Baltimore?
Mhm.
A uniformed cop killed an off-duty cop in a club.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
As far as he was concerned, he was out of uniform. He was just another nigga.
Mm.
And that's why I'm saying it's the color of our skin. Because
Exactly.
a lot of times it doesn't matter what uniform you're wearing, that
Nope.
they don't respect you because of the uniform you're wearing. The disrespect is just because you're black. You have a different color skin than they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And let me bless you guys with one more brief story before we end the podcast. I don't know if you guys read the story about the lady in Valley Stream who's being harassed by her neighbors.
Oh yeah.
Having squirrels and
Yeah.
feces thrown
Mm-hmm.
in her yard and stuff like that.
What?
Yeah.
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 And
It was on the
did you say
news.
Levittown?
No.
Valley Stream.
Valley Stream. Okay.
Valley Stream.
Mhm.
And that's if that was my family member, best believe I'm there with 2 machetes, ready to wait for them to throw that next one over.
Oh,
They
you
were
wait.
doing, yeah,
I
they were.
would.
Well, just to give you an update on that, those neighbors, 2 of them were charged. They were charged with felonies, for harassment, for endangering. What was the other charge?
I think was it menacing, or it was something else.
One of them was menacing. One of them was endangering something. I don't remember. But yeah, and they were charged with harassment and assault. They were charged.
Wow.
And Valley Stream.
And that's crazy because that's my town. I live in Valley Stream, and quite frankly, this is a kind of like a melting pot. Like, this neighborhood is so diverse, and when this came out, a lot of us were like, "What?" Because this is a very diverse town. So we were very shocked to hear that. And she even posted pictures of one of her neighbors who was out in his backyard cleaning his gun as like a scare tactic to try to get her, I guess, to move or whatever the case was. But the people, we all there was protests. A lot of people joined together, and we was able to get her some kind of justice.
We thank you guys for that. So it was a good thing, great thing for a good woman. I seen the article about her. Seemed very humble, a very humble woman, very hardworking woman. She worked hard to be in a better neighborhood for herself and her family. And for them to disrespect like that it was wrong.
Yeah.
And this is I want to say something about our black brothers. Even me, we have to do a better job protecting our black queens.
We do.
Yeah.
We have to do a much better job doing that.
We do. And you know what? I think it's gonna start with what Joey had talked about earlier, starting with that self-love. Because first of all, we don't love and respect ourselves. You know, how are we gonna stand up and have that reverence, respect, love, and that idea of protection for queens?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, if we don't love ourselves enough to put ourselves in a position to be able to love them and protect them and you know whatever.
Absolutely. But definitely, guys, we're gonna end this podcast on that note, protecting our black queens. You know what I'm saying? Even though we tend to be headaches, big pains in their butts all the time, but we still got to protect our queens.
That's a whole nother pot.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I
Listen,
think it's a
listen,
whole other
I plead the fifth.
listen. Let me explain something to you. Sacrament of marriage. Let's set up a time. Whether it's I'm off Wednesday, I'm off Friday. Let's set up a time where you can do the Sacrament of Marriage episode podcast. I have a lot to say about that because I feel that both men and women are a victim of their preference.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Okay.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm in it.
And I'm going to say a lot of things, my people. I'm going to say a lot of things. I've never been married before, but I've learned from my parents what a marriage is all about. I've seen the mistakes that family members and my family members made mistakes on. And I'm gonna leave you with this tidbit that my father told me. A man is not mature enough to marry until he's in his 40s.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He said that my father said, when I met your mother, I was still doing my thing. But it's something about your mother that made it click for me. That maybe said, I gotta stop.
Maybe it was that frying pan going upside his head. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I think it was the power of my great grandmother said, listen, if you don't stop what the
I'll
F
tell
you're doing,
you been to the Bell House?
we go put something on you. I mean, I can tell you a whole story about how my father was able to reunite with my mom in the United States. It's a very big story. It's like a folklore. What my great grandmother did for my father to enable him to leave the country finally. So one day I'll tell that story when I'm comfortable talking about that story.
But also with that topic, with the whole, union and marriage, you also have to talk about what a man has to be willing to do something in order to change himself.
If he's not able to do that, then he's not ready to enter a marriage.
Exactly.
Right. That comes back to the self-love thing.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, funny how we keep coming back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is too, what people need to understand is a marriage is when you marry your wife, or if you have a alternative lifestyle, which is not so alternative anymore, you and your mate are one. They're not two separate entities. It's one.
No.
You got to move in unison. And what I learned from my parents is that they got to talk to each other for 7 days and they still don't know what the other one's doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. Just watching it, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And my father was not Mr. Perfect. He was Mr. Whole lot, but it's and to his credit, Joe and Derek would know, he was very honest about it.
Right.
Not a lot of men are honest about it. In order for you to change, you got to understand who you are before.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and no matter where you go, step one is always at acknowledging what the issue is.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, and my mom had some statements in regards to that too. Her version of it. Some women said she was weak, but my mom said I'm very strong. So I let him know what was required of him. If he didn't follow my direction, I'm out the door. Listen, I'll tell you a story about my grandparents. It was hilarious. It's like another folklore story. When my grandfather left my grandmother at 2:00 in the morning, he said, "You know what? I'm leaving you." And my grandfather stood over my grandmother, wait for a response. You know what my grandmother said? I said, "What you waiting for? The door's right there. Why are you still here?" And Joe, you know my grandmother Ticia. She was thugged out like, "What are you waiting for? Get out of here."
Hey, what are you talking about it for?
Go. I learned a lot of
Woke me up.
Listen.
You know what time it is?
Listen.
I gotta be up at 6. God damn it.
if I could tell you the stunts I pulled as a young man, my stunts I pulled the stunts I pulled when I was a young man did not come from my father. It came from the women that raised me. So, I mean, I'm not saying I'm imperfect. I'm imperfect. I am perfect. Imperfect. You know, but it comes a point that in everyone's life they gotta turn a corner, and you gotta realize that you gotta turn that corner because now you're messing around with loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
You're messing with that,
Right.
and no one wants to be lonely in their darkest hour.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have a spouse that's going to take care of you. Let's just say, God forbid, I have a stroke. Who's going to take care of me?
Right.
Who's going to be the one that has to step up and take care of me? And vice versa. My mom, you know, she passed away, as you guys know.
Mm-hmm.
If my father was alive, he probably would have came through because they had an understanding of backing each other up.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom had stents put in her heart over, I think the first stent was like 15 years ago. And my father, he was like a puppy dog lost. He would sit in his car at 7 a.m. in the driveway. I'm like, Pop, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just waiting for the visiting hours to go so I go see your mom. Then you go to the hospital visiting hours at Lorenthorpe at the time was 11 a.m. He was at the park at Winthrop Hospital at 9:30, sitting outside the door.
That's love.
Waiting to get in.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that anymore. We don't have that anymore. So
Yeah,
I don't want to.
I agree. I don't think that exists anymore because a lot of these younger generation, the way they look at marriage is based on what they see in a lot of these celebrities and and
In the media.
actors and yes and on the media where it's like, oh well, this didn't work out, so I'm gonna move on and marry the next person, you know, like
There's
that
no
mentality.
resolution.
Like they're not willing to try and work things out, or or maybe they got married without even thinking about who they are marrying.
They didn't know who they were getting married to.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the battle. That's the problem. We think we married a person, we stop learning about them.
Mm-hmm.
That's so wrong. You still learning.
About to say,
Right.
knowing that every day you change. You know, yesterday you didn't like chocolate ice cream. Today you do. What make you think that your health ain't gonna change some shit?
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's all part of life. It's all part of growing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a partner, you can with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And as Joe, I never advocated for any divorce ever. No matter how bad, if my brothers is being treated badly by their wife, I never advocated divorce. I always said work it out.
Right.
Joe, how many times I came at you at times when you said certain things that are going on in your situation? I told you, listen, you need to do this, this, and this.
Right.
Right. As long as infidelity is not involved, or so, some kind of betrayal, like the ultimate betrayal, is not involved. I do agree. You should work it out. You should try to figure out a way, because there was a reason why you came together in the first place. So.
Well, look, I'm gonna say this: the only reason I stepped when my marriage fell apart, the day that my life was threatened.
Well, there you
That
go. That's
that
a
that is
big betrayal. That's
I mean, other than that, I'm down to work this shit out, because at the end of the day, we supposed to be partners. We got to figure this shit out.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's not get too much into the marriage episode. It's gonna be thunderous, and I want to have enough people. If I could have more female guests on that podcast, it'd be so wonderful to have that on the podcast. exchange true dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't need to be with someone to exchange dialogue. You need to be around the right people to exchange the true dialogue to create a certain destination. And that's the problem. Our destinations at times can be very short-sighted and not long-term. We're too much short-term instead of long-term. And I'm going to leave it at that. Guys, I want to thank each and every one of you to join me on this podcast. We will do it again. And everybody, you can listen to this podcast. I'm on YouTube, True Players Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, people. Subscribe. And you can listen to this podcast on Joey G Radio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud. And any other situation, Anchor, Spreaker, yes, you can listen on those podcasts. Listen to podcasts on those venues as well. Any last words for you? Any last words? We start with Carmi.
No, I just want to, I hope that, the people who were listening, they were able to get something out of our dialogue here on the topic of, Jacob Blake and additional information that we spoke on. And and I just want to say thanks for having me on here. It was really cool. I had a good time.
Pleasure having you on. Carmen, we're going to do our own individual podcast about the child sport. I promise you that. All right, Ricky, what's up, man? What's some final words?
I just got two things to say. First and foremost, if any of you in this forum right now, if anybody listening right now, anybody that's going through any type of mental illness, depression, reach out, speak to them, talk to them. Sometimes an open ear can go a long fucking way. And the second thing I want to say, yesterday we lost one of our, yesterday we lost a brother, Mr. Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace.
Absolutely.
Brother played Thurgood Marshall, James Brown, Jackie Robinson, and T'Challa the Black Panther. So he's like, he has brought to us a wealth of information. And if you would have asked me the day before yesterday, I'd have told you that his work wasn't done and that he was just getting started. So, live on, brother, never rest. And my prayers and thoughts go out to your family.
Absolutely.
And to all my brothers and sisters out there listening, the brother that we lost died of cancer. Look into ways to, like we were talking about, learn how to love yourself. Look into ways to treat your body better and to get healthier. I ain't perfect. I'm one of those people that's learning myself. I eat unhealthy. I smoke. I got my own habits, but I'm looking into ways on how to break those chains, and I'd encourage anybody out there listening to do the same.
Absolutely.
Well
Joey
said.
G. Well said.
Well, it's been another good episode. I enjoyed the podcast, and I'm grateful to be here once again, talking to the True Players Podcast. Future endeavors, we're talking about Joey G Rum Talk, or Gomez Rum Talk podcast. I would encourage you guys to be guests as well on that podcast, and I'll open the floor to be a little less politically correct and more emotionally driven as far as that podcast is concerned. It's just, I like the passionate part of the podcast, and I like to hear other people's points of views. Hopefully, we can get a respective points of views on each side, and people could walk away with a better perspective and a different way of looking at things in life. And I'll just leave it with that. Look forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Like
Hey,
I
brother
said,
Joey. Hey, brother
Yes.
Joey. I got one for your podcast. How in the fuck is bacteria considered life on Mars, but a life beef isn't considered life on Earth?
Good question.
We gonna rap about that one, brother.
We go. That's
I'm gonna ask you this real quick before we let that one go.
Yeah.
If roaches are land bugs, why are people eating shrimp? lobster and crawfish?
Because they fried right.
I'm just saying, those are supposed to be bugs of the sea.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, guys, we'll follow up on Ricky Brown's condolences to Chadwick Boseman and his family. A true king. Like Ricky said, his career was just started. Just started. And this is a kid. This is a guy in which Denzel Washington paid for his education as an actor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And true, like I said, true king. And the beautiful part, the thing about it is that we didn't know he was sick. I didn't know he was sick.
Yeah, he kept that very private. This was since 2016. He was diagnosed with the colon.
I think that was during when he was in Civil War, right?
Yep. Yep. When he was shooting Civil War, he was actually dealing with his sickness then.
Mm-hmm.
Getting his treatment between movies and between takes and all that.
Absolutely. So Chadwick Boseman, sleep in peace. Wakanda forever, my man. We sign off. True Players Podcast. Next episode. See, we'll talk to you. Peace.
He's like a soothsayer. Shout out to Big Dom, he's a true player. We even took gourmet, we be soufflaying. So who playing? We talk about everything. Live, from the light to the heavy things. Live on podcast, we gon' help your time pass. We well connected, way better than Comcast. No cap, why? Cause we stay woke. And our podcast is fire, straight smoke. So pay close attention, cause we ain't the most. Shout out to Sheik